Hey guys, it's Heavy Tinfoil here, and a bit of a different video today from my regular ones. It has been a while since I've uploaded, but just been very busy. So basically, I just want to talk about obviously pretty much worldwide fuel prices have shot up dramatically. We're all paying an arm and a leg for fuel, whether it be diesel or petrol. In my country, diesel is a little bit more dearer, but yeah, both are pretty much at an all-time high. So I just wanted to run you through some things you can do with your car to maximize your fuel economy. Obviously every car is different, you can only do so much, but what I have is I have a 2014 Ford Territory, which, you know, Australians are probably familiar with them. If you're not from Australia, you're probably not, but basically it's a petrol version, and they're not really known for the best fuel economy. So I think brand new, these cars were advertised at, I think, 10.5 litres per 100 kilometres. That was for the rear wheel drives. If you have an all wheel drive, they tend to use a little more because you've obviously got the yeah, it's a different setup. So they were using sort of about 12, somewhere around that mark. Basically mine advertised at 10.5. I've managed to get mine down to about 8.8 to about 9 litres. So that's pretty good considering what, the size of the car and all that stuff. So I'm just going to run you through. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm not going to show you how to do everything because obviously every car is different. I'm just going to sort of explain to you what I've done, what worked for me, and what you can try. So basically the first thing I'm going to start out with is your air filter box. Obviously all these are different. They're all very similar, but you have an air filter in there, you have to replace them. Look, make sure yours has been replaced. I have a K&N filter, so mine actually is one you just oil, so I never have to replace mine. I just have to pull it out every sort of roughly 6 months or so, give it a clean, re-oil it. Most people have paper filters, so you replace them. Look, if you've just got a standard paper filter, I'd recommend replacing it roughly every 20,000 Ks, so that's what, every second service. But it all depends. I mean, if you're driving on country roads, if you're driving on dirt roads, you might have to keep an eye on it and replace it more often than that, but you can usually tell. Pull it out. If it's full of shit, common sense, replace it. They're pretty cheap, 20-30 bucks, and just replacing your air filter alone, it's going to give you better fuel economy, it's going to give you better performance, it's going to protect your motor as well, and it's just going to be better all around. Second thing is, now this being a petrol, has spark plugs, coils. Obviously if you've got a diesel you won't have to worry about this, but your spark plugs, in my case, my spark plugs are just under the rocker cover here. Every car's different, but every single petrol car has spark plugs and coils. Now, if they haven't been changed, look into changing them, especially if you're getting misfires under load, or when you're accelerating and stuff like that. That's a clear sign that you need to replace your spark plugs. They recommend sort of anywhere between 80 to 100,000. So look, you don't have to replace them very often. Especially spark plugs, they're very cheap. Your coils are usually a bit more, but if you are going to replace them and they haven't been done, you're better off just doing both at the same time. Just find out what fits your car and get your mechanic, or if you're confident enough to do it yourself, you can replace them yourself. That's going to make especially if they haven't been done for a long time, that's going to make a pretty big difference on the overall performance of your car and the fuel economy. Next thing obviously is, most people know this, but make sure you're doing your oil changes regularly. Look, I would not in any car go over 10,000 personally. I know some people do sort of say, you can go to 15, maybe with certain cars, but me myself, I've never gone over 10. I've always went to 10,000 kilometers at the most, and then I've changed the oil, done the filter. Now another little thing that you could also check with your car is, some cars can run either 5W30 oil or they can run 10W40 oil. In my case, mine can run on both. they recommend 5W30, but I actually run 10W40 because my car's just done over 200,000 Ks. So for cars that have sort of done a few more kilometers, like 200,000 plus, I've always sort of found that a bit of thicker oil protects the motor a bit more. But look, if you don't need to use a thicker oil, or if you haven't done a lot of kilometers, just stick to the lower vicinity, because it's obviously going to be a less thicker oil, and that's also going to help out with having a bit better fuel economy. Look, the differences are minimal. I've ran 5W30 in this and 10W40, and the difference of the fuel economy is pretty minimal, but I mean, with the price of fuel at the moment, it all adds up. It does make a difference. Next thing I would say would be obviously replacing your fuel filter quite regularly. Same thing, every 20,000 roughly. If you don't know if it's been done or not, just do it. They're only cheap. Same sort of thing. Some cars are a bit of a pain to do if they're like an inbuilt, like they're in the actual tank. You might need a mechanic to do it, but a lot of them are just underneath. Some of them are even in the engine bay, and you can swap them out. You know, it's a 10-15 minute job with some cars, and they're relatively cheap. So if you don't know when it was last done, or you haven't done it for a while, definitely look into replacing your fuel filter. Another thing also is injector cleaners or fuel system cleaners. Now, depending on what country you're in, there's a lot of these in the shops. I've tried pretty much all of them. I've tried Nulon, Penrite, all that sort of stuff. Now, I think them brands, they do, I have noticed a difference with them, but the differences have been quite minimal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some stuff I've bought, which again, you might be able to get this in other countries, but this is for mainly for people who are in Australia. This is Australian made. I'm going to show you some stuff that was probably the first fuel system cleaner that I used, and I actually sort of realized the difference it made. So I'll just grab it here for you. So it's by a company called Fuel Doctor. You might not have heard of them. Now, this stuff, I'm not going to explain like how much to use and all that, but it's all on their website. It's all on the back here, but it basically cleans your whole system. You can use it in diesel or petrol, and this stuff alone brought my overall fuel economy down by nearly a litre every 100 Ks just by using about 500 mils of this stuff. They recommend putting it in just before you top up. So, you know, go to the servo, take some of this, put however much you need to use in first, and then fuel your car up. That's sort of what I've always done. That's what most people say to do, is to get the best results. But I mean, this stuff, it's a little bit costlier than the other injector cleaners and all that, but it works. I'll vouch for them. I'm not getting any money from this company at all, but this stuff does work. I've also used it in my dad's diesel Triton as well, which has blown a lot of smoke at one point, and within about 100 kilometers he come and told me that it's not doing it anymore. So can definitely vouch for this stuff. Other than that, that's all that pretty much is off the top of my head. Another thing you can also do, guys, that probably gets overlooked a lot is, I'll show you on my car. Obviously they're all different, but the throttle body. Now, in my case, there's an air pipe. Most cars are pretty much the same. You have your air box with your air filter, and there's a pipe that runs from that to your throttle body. And if you don't know how a throttle body works, you know, it's pretty much says it. Your throttle, when you're putting your foot on the throttle, it'll open, close, sucks air in from your air box. These over time tend to build up with a lot of gunk, especially if you've got a diesel. Petrol ones usually stay reasonably clean, but they still do need to be cleaned. But diesels especially, they will build up with gunk. So I recommend pulling all this apart, having a look at your throttle body, and you can buy some throttle body cleaner spray. Usually just spray a bit in there. You can spray it in there, like, as long as you don't spray too much. Usually I just put a bit on the rag, and then I get the rag in there and clean it all out. Now with throttles bodies, you got to be careful. So you want to avoid opening these up with your hand, because it can sort of, sometimes it can, there's like a little butterfly clip in these, and sometimes it can damage them. So you want to avoid doing that. So what you're best doing is taking it all apart, getting it ready to clean, grab your keys and just turn your ignition, like your accessories, on. Don't start the car. just turn the accessories on. So the computer for the car is powered up, and if you've got someone that can press on the throttle for you, that will then open it up. So you got someone in the car, put their foot down the throttle, and then you clean it while the throttle's open up, so you're not opening up manually with your hand. Obviously, if you've got no one to help you, well, you can use a rock, use a brick. You can even grab like a broom and sort of, anything that's going to hold your throttle down, and it can just stay there and it's stable while you clean it out. It's just a lot better to do it that way than to. On my last car, I did manually open it up and clean it myself, and I didn't have any dramas. But I have heard with some cars it can damage them. So obviously do that at your own risk. But other than that, guys, all them things I've ran through, if you do all that, you're pretty much on track with having the best fuel economy you can for your car. Like I said, they're all different, but I'm just trying to explain the things that help to me. It's greatly improved my fuel economy, and at the moment with the price of fuel, it helps. It all adds up. So thanks guys, and I hope this helped. Thank you.